First off, I'd like to introduce today's special guests, Dr. Ernest Moniz, Secretary of Energy who got his PhD in theoretical physics at Stanford and taught physics at MIT, and Jessica Hills, representing Cal Poly, where she has received her Bachelor's of Science in Biology and is currently working toward her Master's in Public Policy. Let's welcome her. Alright, as you may have guessed, we're going to discuss the pros and cons of biofuels. Media Matters has received several emails and letters from our viewers asking questions about biodiesel, carbon emissions, and biofuel regulations, so we picked the most popular questions just for you two. Let's start with you, Dr. Moniz. What is your position on biofuels, if you have one?
Thanks, George. My position is mainly positive regarding biofuels, but I wouldn't say I'm pro-biofuels. I recognize that more efficient methods for creating energy need to be discovered. However, I'll stand behind most efforts in creating a cleaner environment and a healthy economy.
Very interesting. Thank you. How about you, Miss Hill?
Thanks for asking, George. I'm not completely sold on the idea of biofuels, actually.
Oh, fascinating. Why is that?
Several reasons, but mainly the detriment to the environment due to the impact of land being used for biofuels, food production, meat production, and the implications of such land use on our food supply, food prices, and economy in general.
Wow, Miss Hill, that's not what most of us are used to hearing. But you know what? Let's back up a little. I forgot to start with a very important question. Dr. Moniz, would you mind educating us on what biofuels, specifically biodiesels, are?
Great question. Yes, many people have heard the term biofuel, but it's actually biodiesel that's making the news. Biodiesel is actually what it sounds like. Diesel made from eco-friendly sources such as virgin vegetable oils, animal fats, and waste cooking oil. There are also gains being made in the production of microalgae and the sequestering of a methane it produces as a biofuel.
Oh, that's so interesting. Great introduction. That's a perfect lead into the next question, if you wouldn't mind answering that too, Dr. Moniz.
Well, sure.
Our viewers ask, can I put biodiesel into my regular diesel engine?
Certainly. Biodiesel is designed to work in diesel engines that currently exist, although older ones may clog if they're too dirty, but essentially, yes. And in fact, if you'll allow me, algae and other biofuels are being considered based upon their reduced carbon emissions compared to petrol and fossil fuels. Let me grab my pencil. Alright, now, as you can see, if you compare petroleum emissions in 1 gallon of gasoline versus emissions from biofuels, specifically soybean oil, you can see that petroleum emits 9 kilograms of carbon dioxide per gallon of gas, where soybean biofuel only emits 2, because all the carbon that's taken up by the plants is recycled when the next plants grow.
Wow, that's significant. Miss Hill, we've discussed what biodiesel is and why it's being produced. Do you have a counter-argument?
Thanks, George. Yes, actually. Although Dr. Moniz made a convincing argument about lower CO2 emissions, biodiesel has some extremely important and vastly overlooked consequences.
What are those?
Well, as he actually said, CO2, for one, isn't the only greenhouse gas, even though it's the poster boy for these discussions, since emissions are the most persecuted after they're produced.
Wait, so are you saying that emitting CO2 from gasoline isn't the only way it's being emitted? They are emitted even before the gasoline goes into the engine?
Yes, but worse than that actually. Let's use microalgae for an example. Since Dr. Moniz brought them up, we in the energy field know that the Department of Energy donated $1.5 million to microalgae production, Cal Poly being one of the 4 beneficiaries. So, in the production of microalgae, which is different from your average red and green algae, it's grown in man-made pools and collected when it dies and sinks to the bottom of the pond. The collection of this dead algae is the sequestering of methane to be converted with ethanol into workable biofuel. The problem is that methane is almost 14 times as potent a greenhouse gas as CO2, and the sequestration inevitably is going to be less than 100%. If even 10% of the methane produced is let into the atmosphere, it's going to have a detrimental environmental impact. Moreover, the production of ethanol is a CO2 emitting process, and then the burning of biofuels is again emitting CO2.
If I may interject, Miss Hill.
Sure.
Microalgae production takes up less land and requires only sunny environmental conditions for a fairly healthy crop. In the biofuel industry, algae is becoming a promising biofuel.
You're correct, Dr. Moniz. However, we can't rely on algae alone. You need about 30% more biodiesel than gasoline to create the same energy output, which is incredibly inefficient, and several scientists in the field have said it's not worth the while. Food shortages could result from land use, prices may increase due to the food shortages, the economy could become frail due to inflation.
Good points for both sides. We've got to wrap this up, but before we do, I have one more question. Miss Hill, what do you suggest as an alternative to biodiesel?
Photovoltaics, solar energy, wind energy, and nuclear. While some of them may be less than cheap, photovoltaics for example, they're cleaner, less harmful forms of energy that are currently available. But as Dr. Moniz said in the beginning, much work needs to be done in the industry to discover more efficient methods of energy production.
Thanks to both of you, and thanks to our ladies and gentlemen for joining us on Media Matters.